Hello, this video will be on installing Linux Mint 17. I'll be installing it in a VirtualBox environment. So let's get started. Right now I have the virtual machine paused, so I'm just going to go ahead and unpause it, and then we're going to go ahead and start with the installation. Make sure that before you attempt to install Linux Mint 17, if you burned it to DVD, you want to go ahead and go into your computer's BIOS and make sure it's set to boot off of a DVD device. Or if you've burned it to a flash drive or a thumb drive, you want to make sure that it's set to burn off of a USB or a removable device. So the DVD has already booted. It has booted to the live desktop, as you can see right there. You'll see these three icons: the computer icon, Mint's home building or home folder, and then you have the install Linux Mint. So if you want to go ahead and install Linux Mint permanently onto your computer, what you need to do is to come down here to where it shows install Linux Mint, and from there you can either right click on it and choose left click on open, or you can double click on the icon. Either way, it'll go ahead and start the process. As you can see, it opens up this page, and from here what you'll need to do is choose your language. Once you've chosen your language, you come over here and you choose continue. Alright, and then it'll come here to preparing to install Linux Mint. You need to have an average or a minimum of 8.9 gigabytes of hard drive space. We have 20 on this one today. And it says you need to be connected to the internet, but I found through previous experience you don't have to be connected to the internet. This is just good if you want to go ahead and do the automatic updates while you're installing the operating system. And then from here you can go ahead and move down, go ahead and move to the bottom, and then click continue. Alright, you come here to the installation types that you want to choose. Most people go ahead and just choose to erase the whole disk and start from there. What I normally choose is I come down to the bottom where it says something else. You can create or resize your own partitions yourself. This is what I normally do. You don't have to do this, but this is what I do when I install Linux on my computer. I choose this or something similar to this, come down to the bottom and left click on continue. This way we will manually create our partitions. It brings you to this page where it says installation type. Normally for Linux machines, the hard drive is identified as, if you're using a SATA disk, it will be identified as a SDA. If you're using an IDE disk, then it'll be identified as an HDA. Okay, and then you just come down here and choose the button for new partition table, left click it. This message will come up, read it, and then just choose continue. And now you'll see the amount of free space that you have in your hard drive. So what we're going to do today is we're going to prepare our hard drive by installing 3 partitions on it. Partitions is just a name for creating sections on your hard drive to prepare to put data on. The data for today will be the operating system Linux 17. So there's 3 partitions that you want to put on most Linux operating systems or on most hard drives when you're installing Linux onto your hard drive. The 3 partitions are your boot partition, and this will hold your boot manager, which in this case will be grub, or grub2, sorry. And then you'll need a swap partition. That's usually at least 1 gig or double the size of memory that you have. So if you have 2 gigs of memory, then you'll want to make the swap partition at least 4 gigs. And the last partition will be the main partition, which will be root. And you don't need to be root to install your data into the root partition. That's just the name of the folder that you need to install the rest of your operating system on. So just those 3 partitions: your boot partition, your swap partition, and the root partition. Those are the 3 main partitions you need to install Linux on your hard drive. So let's go ahead and start that process. You're going to choose free space, and you can either double click on free space, or you can come down here and click on the add button. I normally just double click on it. Then you'll come over here and you'll see the size that you want, and for the boot partition, it's just going to be small. We're just going to make it 200 megabytes. Normally between 100 to 200 megabytes is good. Actually, I'm going to make this 210, just a little bit bigger than 200. And then you want to make sure that it's the primary. It starts at the beginning of your disk. It is make sure it's a ext4 partition file system. Alright, and then you want to choose the mount point, which for us today will be the boot partition, and then you click OK. Alright, and then as you can see, it has created it for us there. So the next partition we want to create is going to be the swap partition. So we double click on free space again. We come up here and choose our size, and normally what I do, I find that the safest thing is just to give it 1,000 or 1 gig of swap partition memory. I find that that's good enough. So that's going to be 2,000. The actual size of 1 gig is 1,224, but I'm going to do 1,226 just so that, you know, a little bit more. And then you want to make sure it's the primary partition. You want to make sure it starts at the beginning of this space. And instead of choosing ext4 this time, we're going to choose swap partition or swap area. And then you click OK. So now you can see we got our boot partition set up and we got our swap partition set up. And now for our last partition, we're going to go ahead and double click free space again, and we're going to choose the rest of the hard drive to put our root partition in there. And then you want to make sure that you choose primary, and that it's at the beginning of the hard disk space, and that is set with a file system of ext4. And then you want to choose the mounting point, which for us will be the root partition. And then you just click OK. Alright, so we have our 3 partitions made. You can see we have our boot partition, our swap partition, and our root partition. And you can see them up here as well. Alright, so now all we need to do from here is go down to the bottom, click on next, click on install now. It's going to take you to the next page to set up your user it's going to take us to the page to choose which area that we're in. Now for me, I'm in the eastern part of the United States. I actually live in Florida, but the section that it notices or that it recognizes is going to be New York. So for me, I'm going to choose New York. Alright, and then I'm going to come down here and click on continue. Choose the keyboard layout that you want to use. For me, it's going to be English US, and then you may want to go ahead and test it. Make sure that it's working okay. Alright, and then after that you want to choose continue. Alright, from here it's going to ask you if you want to choose a separate username to log into the computer with. Other than root, I would suggest for security reasons you choose another user to create to log into your computer. It's just good security sense. So I'm going to go ahead and choose mine, and then I'm going to put in a password. Make sure require my password to log in is chosen. Come down here and then left click on continue. Alright, now from this point what's gonna happen is that your computer is gonna be prepared to install and use Linux Mint. Then it's gonna, when it's done with the installation, it's gonna say you can go ahead and reboot your system. So that's going to take a little bit. It shouldn't take more than, I don't know, 10-15 minutes. But what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and pause the video, and then we'll come back when it's time to reboot the system. So we'll be right back. Hello, we are back. So it has finished installing Linux Mint 17 on our system. Let me just zoom in enough to where you can see it. So now it comes up here and it says installation has finished. You will continue testing. You can continue to test Linux Mint through the live CD, or if you want to go ahead and reboot the system and log into your Linux Mint 17, which from here is installed permanently on your disk, on your hard disk, we can go ahead and just choose restart now. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. Left click on restart now, and the system will be rebooted. Alright, so it's starting up. It's going to reboot. Alright, as you can see right here, it says right in green, it says please remove the installation media and close the tray, and then press enter. So we're going to go ahead and press enter. I'm using Oracle VirtualBox to install this on as a virtual machine. Alright, so it should be coming up soon. There we go. Then you just go ahead and put in your login name or your username, and then you can just put in your password. Okay, and it's going to come up with the welcome screen. Or it should come up with the welcome screen. There it is. That's our welcome screen. That normally comes up when you first log into Linux Mint 17. And if you want it to come up every time you log into Linux Mint, you come down here where it says show this dialog at startup, and you choose the X. If you do not want it to come up every time, then you just deselect the X and you can close out of that. Okay, and now your Linux Mint 17 has been installed on your computer system. That ends this video tutorial today. Stay tuned for the next video tutorial, which will show us how to go ahead, navigate, and use our Linux Mint 17. Thank you very much, and you have a good day.